Hi, this is Richard Blade, the voice of the 80s and KROQ Radio, Gay Rock. And you're listening to the voice of 91 Reasons, Jeff Tucker. Totally awesome.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
I'm sure that we've done over 200 episodes. We're rapidly approaching 250. They're not all giant mega episodes. Some of them are really short, just informational episodes. Some of those were the really short unboxing and all that. But there are episodes where I pontificate and run my mouth for quite a long time. And I'm sure in all that time, there's got to be an episode where I lamented the loss of idle time. But it bears repeating again because, okay, you go out to a restaurant these days and you sit there and there's those moments where nothing is happening. You know, you get seated and you're waiting for somebody to take your drink order. There's a little block of time there. Then the drinks come and they go, do you need more time? And usually somebody needs more time, so they go away. Then they come back, and then they take your order, and then they leave. And then there's the longest block of idle time right there while you're waiting for the food. And it used to be that people talk to each other, but now, like, I look up, and my entire family is on their phone. God, I hate cell phones. I don't sit on my phone all day, you know? And I don't understand. I guess if I was a kid, it would be the greatest toy ever created because it does everything. But having not grown up with it, I tend to look at it as a social vampire. It's a little social vampire that sits in my pocket and drains away any kind of rapport or connection that we make with people. Which is odd because it's a communication device. And it does the opposite. It sucks the life out of everything, man. I look up sometimes at a restaurant. Both of my, Luke and Luna are both on their phones. Josie's on her phone. Rachel's on her phone. And I just sit there. Like, I could apply white grease paint and a fright wig and a little rubber nose. I could turn myself into a clown. And they wouldn't notice until the food arrived. They'd look up and go, oh my God, Dad's a clown now. They wouldn't see any of the process because the phone is so engrossing. And I don't know what you get out of it. I know that the people who design apps, in the beginning it was apps that actually did things. I have an app on my phone that's a pedometer. It counts my steps. I like that because I can see how many miles I've walked at work. And I do walk 3 to 4 to 7 miles a day. We went to Comic-Con. We walked 17 in a day. That's a useful app. But the apps that they make now go through these long vetting processes where they look at, like, what can we get people to look at initially? And then we will find a way to reward them the longer they look at it. And each time you're rewarded, your brain flashes with excitement because you've gotten a phony reward. You know what I mean? Like, they have people who studies. How do we addict people? Because I think Candy Crush started as just a game, and then they're like, no, we're going to hire these people, and they're going to tell us the exact amount of rewards people need to keep playing. That way, because I know Candy Crush sold for billions of dollars to some company. But how do we combat that? How are we, the individuals, supposed to fight the phone that just sucks people in so deeply? I don't know. I have no idea, I think that moving forward, people like me are just going to die off. And the world will just be inherited by the phone lookers. Phone lookers. And eventually it'll become, flookers, the way words get truncated. So the flookers will inherit the earth, and that's Phlookers, flookers. will inherit the earth and they will walk into poles, or their world will change. Power lines will, out of necessity, be put underground so people don't walk into poles. Pedestrian walkways will be elevated above streets, or by that time, cars will be self-driving and they'll know not to hit the flookers because they've been programmed. And it will just be a whole world that, instead of connecting with each other on a personal level, would rather connect to each other on a status update. And oh my God, that's sad. And I know if you put the X-Men episode with this one, I'm getting old and cranky, and I admit it. But I'm also a little sad. Like, when I look up at that restaurant, I've decided what I want. Normally, we don't go to a lot of new restaurants, so I know what the restaurant has. So I know going in what I'm going to order. It's not some big scavenger hunt. So I put the menu down and like, hey guys, how's it going? No, you guys are on your phones. Rachel's checking us into Denny's so that everybody knows exactly where we are. Josie is taking pictures of herself, which is another complete conversation. And Luna and Austin, I have no idea. Now, Austin's pretty good. He doesn't really care for the phone. He's a lot like me. But I don't know what we're going to do moving forward. Families are going to die out. Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger. Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger. You won't. You won't see that stranger. You won't look up across from a bus stop and see the person who will eventually be the love of your life, because both of you will be looking at your phones, dreaming of being somewhere else. And you know what? If you're at a dirty bus stop waiting for the bus, you probably do dream of being somewhere else. But I see people using their phones at Disneyland, at Knott's Berry Farm, at the movies, and it's like, no, these are destinations. You wanted to come here. And now you're wasting the come here on your phone. I don't understand. What's happening? So, anyways, that brings me to the episode today. And I don't normally go into the episode and say it like that, but when I was 13, we got our Betamax beta player, and we didn't have a lot of movies. We rented movies, and that was like the greatest thing on earth. And here I am. Oh, well, Jeff, your generation simply just plopped in front of the TV and watched movies. Yeah, we did. But we also socialized. Movies were social. Hey, have you seen this movie? No, well, you come over and watch it. Not, hey, have you seen your phone? Yeah, come over and stare at your phone with my house. Oh, I'm going to go over to Jeff's house and stare at my phone, Ma. Okay, be back before supper. But I remember getting a copy of this movie of Just One of the Guys on beta. It was not a copy. It was an actual beta tape, a commercial rental tape. And it's funny because it's another film that came out in 1985. And I've always looked back, like 1985 is like the year that that everything imprinted on me. But that's science. The movies that you see at age 13 will be the ones that you love the rest of your life. That's the way most people are. Between 13 and 14, you will find your set of movies. My set of movies just happened to be Back to the Future, Goonies, all the movies of 1985. And that includes this bizarre, what's supposed to be a teen sex comedy called Just One of the Guys. And it's interesting in that I've seen this movie, I'm not kidding, over 100 times, maybe more. I mean, I've seen it a lot. But when we do the show here, I always watch it again. I don't ever rely on just memory, because I like to get a fresh perspective. And it's different. I've said before, and this was most prevalent during the Blade Runner episode, when you're watching a movie for enjoyment, it's completely different than when you're watching a movie knowing I'm going to have to talk about this movie. So I'm watching it with a complete different eye. And, dissecting this movie, it seems like just another Porky's or, trying to think of some other just dumb sex comedies. There were a whole bunch of them in the 80s. That's where they proliferated. After Porky's, everybody wanted to make these because they were cheap. But this one actually is a lot deeper than that. And and they have a little bit of exploitation in it, but it actually is there to further the story. So it's interesting. And we have to thank Patreon pledger Michael Bondi for supporting this episode. He always makes great movie choices, and this is yet another one. I don't think when he suggested it, he knew how many times I've actually seen this movie. But I watched it again and had to thank Hindle. My friend Hindle can track down any movie in an instant and somehow get it to me. So he really does save, because otherwise I'd be buying all these on eBay, and I'm already behind on movie reviews. That I'd be behind even more waiting for these things to come in the mail. But, okay, so Just One of the Guys, 1985. It's directed by Lisa Gottlieb. I did some research on it. I don't have any pages up, so this is all from memory. So if I get something wrong, excuse me if I was dreaming when I wrote this, so excuse me if I go too far. But it's interesting. This movie starts off, and it feels like an exploitation movie. We meet Terry. She's our main character. And the opening shot is Terry in her panties and little tiny crop top in bed. And the alarm goes off, and she gets out of bed, and she has to cross the camera area, cross the camera pan and go outside. And it's just so that we can see her from the back. Like, it's very, very exploitative, and that's on purpose. And as a young man, now there's another scene later, not that much later, where she's in her bikini. Again, you see laying down from the back, from the front, her breasts. And you know what? Other than being, TNA in a movie, watching it again, the reason those scenes are there are to establish very quickly to the audience that Terry is ultra feminine. She's a very ultra feminine girly girl. And that's important because of what the plot of the movie is. So that the transition when she turns into Terry the boy can be dramatic and impactful. And it sounds, oh, Jeff, you're just explaining away the semi-nudity. No, I don't think so. Because if this was a guy director, some guy going, all right, Terry, the lead actress is Joyce Heiser. She's fantastic in this movie. It's weird. I looked up her IMDb page, and she worked pretty steady. And even she was in Greedy with Michael J. Fox. She's worked steady ever since, but she never was a big star, which just surprises the heck out of me, because she's very talented. She's amazing in this movie. This is a star-making movie, right? But it's not a guy director, because you could see the guy going, all right, Joyce, the camera's gonna pan. You're in your panties. Alarm goes off. You get out of bed. I want you to cross, and I want you to wiggle your rear. Like, he didn't do that. It's a girl directing. So I think, yeah, and yes, sometimes girls can be masters of exploitation. Look at Amy Heckerling on Fast Times, after Phoebe Cates begged not to do the topless scene. And Amy Heckerling said, it's in the contract. We're going to do it. And Amy Heckerling knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to make a statement and make her career with that scene, and she did. If you've seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High, it needs no introduction. One of the most famous nude scenes of all time. And Mr. Skin calls it #1 again and again and again of all time. So Lisa Gottlieb, now she didn't work a lot after this, which again is surprising, because Just One of the Guys is a solid movie. It has a fun plot, and it's very logical. I think that's why I've watched it so much. If it was just stupid TNA, I would have given it up and not watched it. I mean, I would have watched it once or twice, but I wouldn't have watched it again and again and again. It has to have something else to it. Otherwise, it's just a fake, Z-grade, almost softcore pornography film, and this one isn't. So in the film, Terry's at home. Her parents are away for 2 weeks. That's important because of what Terry's going to get up to. Her parents, we don't need the parents as another subplot of who they're hiding from. But Terry goes to Pearl High, where she wants to be a reporter, and they're having a contest. And the winner gets to have a summer internship at the local newspaper. And Terry's got her sights set on it. But the teacher, the journalism teacher, doesn't think her article is very good. He says it's boring, it's bland, it's about nutrition. And he makes the mistake of telling her, look, you're a pretty girl, you don't need to be a reporter, you could be a model. And this sets her off. And it does have weight to it, because we sympathize with Terry. Here she is, she's very pretty, and in Terry's eyes, and what we're led to believe, the audience eyes, she's being held back because she's good looking. And that's not fair. Just say the same way I shouldn't be held back because I'm not good looking, even though we know how the world works, right? So Terry decides she's going to go across town to the other high school and submit the article as a boy, because she'll get more credibility as a boy. Same article. And she's going to prove a point, right? So she decides to get in drag and accomplish this mission. And she soon finds out that the teacher over there says her article's bland too. He says it needs a woman's touch, which is the ultimate slap in the face to her. So Terry is left devastated because she's not going to get the internship. Her plan failed. And what happens is that Terry decides to do something that's less selfish. Like, the whole thing starts off, Terry is selfish. She's going to do this. She's going to, thumb her nose at the teacher at her own high school, and she's going to prove them all wrong, right? And then she gets a slap in the face of reality. So Terry has to have, she even says it, my voyage of self-discovery ended in despair. She's going to have to regroup. So she meets this guy at the other high school named Rick. And Rick is he's not a nerd, because they have nerds in the movie, and the nerds are great. They're played by Ari Gross and this other guy. Now, Ari Gross would go on to work a lot in a lot of movies. But Rick is kind of this, he's just a sad sack. He has no self-esteem, he has no style, he has no this, no that. And Terry decides, I'm going to make it my mission to get this guy a prom date. And I don't think she's doing it to write an article. She's doing it because in her heart it's the right thing to do, and she really feels for this guy. And eventually, when she does accomplish her goal, she realizes too late that she likes this guy. Now, she's got a boyfriend. He's in college. He's going to fall by the wayside because she's going to cut her hair, take her makeup off. She's going to become a boy. And I think, and that's going to, that really bothers him because she's changing her look so much that he doesn't get her anymore. And it's not even the looks so much as she's just not available for him anymore because she's doing these projects with this other school. It's never explained how she juggles 2 complete curriculums at both high schools, but we're not supposed to be asking that. But when she finally gets Rick a prom date, she realizes she has to go to the prom too. So her best friend, a girl, has to go with Terry the boy to the prom, where we're going to have our ultimate showdown. But let's back up. Let's back up a little bit, because there's a bunch of other characters that inhabit this. I talked about the nerds. There's also a guy who's a reptile Sherbico. Really fun auxiliary characters. Just one of the guys takes a big cue from the John Hughes movies, where we've got our main character, we've got our main problem, our plot that we've got to fix, but the world around them is inhabited by interesting characters as well. And you could almost see the movie, if it had to, take a right turn into this other world. Reptile Sherbico he's crazy. He's got lizards and frogs all over his body. He's walking an iguana through the shower. The 2 nerds are given quite a bit of screen time and fleshed out enough that if we did a spin-off or we veered, we could totally get these characters. We're going to meet Greg Toland. Greg Toland is Billy Zabka from The Karate Kid. He plays the heavy here. This guy was typecast as the heavy. I've met him. He was at an improv show I was at. He's a really nice guy. He's one of those like Tom Wilson who played Biff. They're nothing like their on-screen personas. They play a part. They get a check. And Greg Toland's a good character. It's very interesting. He doesn't just beat up guys. He uses the school as like his gym. So everything he does, he's telling these 2 toadies how to build up their muscles by lifting guys, lifting tables, throwing people. It's actually very funny. It still makes him a jerk, but it makes him an interesting jerk, if that makes sense. Because he's not just, beating people up. Terry's best friend is interesting. She's got, she can't get a date. And what's interesting is that all of these characters are going to have, the ones who have problems that we need to address, they're all going to be fixed by the time the movie ends, which is great. I'm not going to say it's Back to the Future great as far as screenplay writing, but for what's supposed to be a throwaway teen sex comedy, it surprisingly goes to great lengths to wrap up every storyline that it starts. There's two other characters that almost steal the movie. Sherilyn Fenn shows up as Sandy the Fish Girl. Sherilyn Fenn would go on to have a huge career for a while. Two Moon Junction, of course, Twin Peaks. Everybody knows her from Twin Peaks. Sherilyn Fenn was a sex symbol for a while. I mean, when I worked at the video store in the late 80s, there were at least a dozen movies with Sherilyn Fenn as the sex pot. I mean, she's so good looking. Oh my God. I mean, you can watch this movie and know, like, okay, if you had to pick one of these to be the bigger star out of it, who is it? Oh, Sherilyn Fenn. Thank you. Sandy the Fish Girl. And Sandy the Fish Girl throws herself at Terry the boy. It doesn't work, obviously. But the other character, and this is the guy who steals the movie, is Billy Jacoby as Buddy, Terry's brother. Terry's brother, Buddy, has the best lines of the movie. And here's the weird thing. He is portrayed as he's a virgin who's desperate to have sex. Everything he does could be construed as gross and misogynistic, and he's very sexualized. But the way Billy Jacoby plays him, he's so likable. Like, I'm a guy, so maybe I have the wrong opinion, but I know a lot of girls who watch this movie. My friend Laura, this is one of her favorite movies of all time. I don't think she is offended by Buddy. I think Buddy steals the movie. I would quote Buddy incessantly when I started watching this movie, He does this bit where he picks up the phone and just does a series of terrible exchanges. Yo, scumbag. Yo, suck your own. Eat me. And then as he hangs up, he turns and he goes, Mom says hi. And I mean, that's comedy gold. Billy Jacoby, as almost every scene that he's in, is comedy gold. He's the Henry Harrison, is that his name? Professor Harrison? I don't know. That's Rex Harrison. He's the guy, I'm trying to do like My Fair Lady. He's the guy that's going to teach Terry how to be a boy. Tour de force scene, how to scratch your balls. It's very, very funny. How to walk, how to talk. And they don't have an adversarial relationship. You can see Buddy, even though he just jibe at her a few times, he generally wants to see her succeed. And when she breaks up with Mr. Wonderful, her college boyfriend, Kevin, he's thrilled because Kevin's a jerk. But she breaks up with Kevin not knowing if she's going to get with Rick. So it's not like I'm trading one for the other. She's just making a life choice. It's very interesting. Before we get too far along here, we should say that I don't know the casting process of this movie or how many people they looked at to play Terry, but Joyce Heiser is so good. Again, I'm just stunned she didn't become a big star because of this movie. And here's the other weird thing. She's so good looking as Terry the girl, even though I know she's wearing a wig. But, they show off her body. She's very, very pretty, very fit, very good looking. And yet, when she becomes Terry the guy, you don't see Terry the girl. A lot of drag movies, you can still see, like when I watch Tootsie, I know that's Dustin Hoffman in there. When I watch Mrs. Doubtfire, I know that's Robin Williams. Maybe it's because they're big stars, and I get that. For some reason, whatever combination they worked here, when Terry's a guy, you really only see Terry the guy. The jokes are still there to remind you that she's a girl. But as far as character, like, they're two separate characters. The same way it's handled in 12th Night, which was obviously the inspiration for this film. But that's a real testament to acting, you know? And the other thing is like, Joyce Heiser has pretty big breasts. So I'm sure they must be wrapped down when she's Terry the guy, because you don't see them. I mean, it's so bizarre. I mean, she has a flat chest. And I know, like, oh, Jeff, you're studying. No, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to study these movies. It's what I get paid to do on this thing. So I'm doing the work for you, folks. You can't see her breasts. And the way they dress her, she looks like every other guy in the 80s. A little feminine. But you know what? Growing up, when I used to watch Star Search with my sister, if the singer came out and looked feminine, my sister would melt. And I would always ask her, like, you like guys that look like girls? George Michael, Boy George, all of Duran Duran. Oh, yes. I was like, I thought women, no, I'm confused. What do you like, masculine men or feminine men? Well, in the 80s, it was feminine men. Why do you think all those heavy metal bands wore all that makeup? That's what women wanted back then. So maybe that's why Terry looks so good. I mean, it was part of the culture back then that feminine-looking men were considered good-looking. I don't know what the standard is today. I'm not in the dating pool. But she's very good as Terry the guy. So everybody's got a problem in this movie. Terry's best friend can't get a date. Terry's brother, Buddy, can't get laid. And Terry doesn't have an article, a boyfriend, or a resolution. And like all these teen romp movies, and it's so interesting, like we go back to Carrie, I guess. Carrie, Zapped, a lot of Pretty in Pink. Everything will somehow be resolved at the prom, because the prom is the greatest place on earth, right? This is our 1980s passage into adulthood. We're going to put on fancy clothes, eat fancy food, and dance, and by the end of the night, we'll all be women and men. Is that how it works? It's not how it worked for me. I didn't go to the prom and emerge a man. I emerged broke. I got a goodnight kiss from Danielle, but that was about it. But in the movies, everything will be resolved at the prom. So at the prom, Terry confesses her love to Rick, and it doesn't work out well. He rejects her. Well, first off, he thinks she's gay. It's all right, Terry. You're a gay boy. You're a gay man. No, I'm a girl. No, she goes, I'm a girl. And in one of the most bizarre line readings of all time, he goes, yeah, you're a girl, and I'm Cyndi Lauper. You mean Cyndi Lauper? I'm Cyndi Lauper. He says Lauper. It's very bizarre. And they must have run out of film that day because they're like, look, we got one take. But why not loop it in ADR? Automatic dialogue replacement. Why not at the end get rid of it? I'm Cyndi Lauper. Lauper. That's what he says. And then she has to show him her breasts. So she rips her shirt open and shows her breasts. It's the one scene in the movie that I don't dig. It just, you know, as a 13-year-old boy, I'm sure I thought it was great. As an adult man watching a film, it's weird. You almost think like, when he kisses her, like, he kisses her on the dance floor, and everybody thinks in that school that Terry's a guy. So he has to assume Terry's a guy. I got to get out. So they run to like a secluded little area. And you think like she'd go, look, I'm a girl and I'm going to prove it to you. And then they kiss again. And when they part, he would go, you're a girl. Like I would totally buy that. And instead, she has to pull her shirt open. And it was in all the trailers. So it's the big sell moment of the movie. You know, hey guys, if you go to this movie, even if you don't like it, you're going to see breasts. Ooh, 2 tickets, please. So I'm sure that was the argument. If we did it today, I wouldn't have that scene in. There'd be a different way to prove it. You know, it wouldn't be like that. Because Terry's legitimate. Terry's a legitimate character that we respect, we like. And when she does that, it just looks like, I don't know. She just looks so like, look at my breasts. My breasts prove that I am a woman. And it's so bizarre. Like, look at her face. I mean, if you can look up from her breasts, because they're beautiful, but look up. My face is up here, pal. If you can look up at her face, like she's doing her best. But you can just tell, like, even she doesn't want to be there. And It's compounded a few seconds later when Rick leaves and goes, "It's all right, everybody. She has tits." Like, oh, Rick wouldn't do that. Now Rick's embarrassed. Rick feels violated. He has every right to. But he would just go, "It's all right, folks. There's an explanation." Whatever he would. But I get it. We're telling a story as succinctly and tightly as we can. So there's no time for, "What did you mean by that?" You have to say exactly what you mean. I watch a lot of CinemaSins and Cracked articles where they're always taking movies to task for certain things, like when they turn the TV on, it's exactly the news story they need to see. Well, what do you want them to do? Turn the TV on and sit there for 20 minutes watching Three's Company until the news breaks in? You have to tell stories very tightly, as succinctly. You can't have any extras, right? So I get why you have to do that. CinemaSins is always taking people to task for different things that have to be in movies. These are movie tropes. This is the way movies are made. You cannot sin what has to be done. And when you try to break the movie tropes, you better be really good at doing it. When Quentin Tarantino broke the trope of telling a film linear and told Pulp Fiction backwards and forwards and sideways, he was so good at it we didn't mind. When Christopher Nolan did Memento, we didn't mind. Some people do it and you get angry because it's done badly. So that's why tropes are there. It's how we tell stories. So I get that Rick has to say that in order for the audience to get it. And the audience being us and the people at the prom. So Greg Tolan gets his comeuppance at the prom. He gets beat up by Rick. Kevin shows up with Buddy. Buddy's got one of those great tuxedo t-shirts on. Kevin will see that Terry's no longer dating him. They're broke up. So he ends up dating somebody. I mean, he just turns to the next blonde and goes, "How you doing?" And it's just, in very how you doing? In Adrian Romo style. But when Terry gets home, she will find Buddy in bed with Sandy the Fish Girl. Which is, it's great. And it's weird because Sandy doesn't come off as like a slut. Sandy comes off as she's just looking for a boyfriend, and Buddy's a good guy. And Buddy's going to be there for her. I get it. And it's weird because the whole movie you think, well, Buddy's just trying to use women. All but the last 60 seconds. I'd like a little time to reminisce. But in the end, he strikes us as a pretty good guy. And that's weird because the movie hasn't led us down that path. But the way Billy Jacoby plays him, he's very sympathetic. And that's a testament, because this character handled wrong would be awful. But everybody in this movie does a really good job and is firing on all cylinders, especially Billy Jacoby and especially Joyce Heiser. So we get a couple of great scenes of Terry writing an article, which is now about her experience at the high school as a boy with Rick. It's weird that it's not called Just One of the Guys in the article. It's called something else. I don't even remember what it was called. I just remember saying, well, it should be called Just One of the Guys, the article. But, that's neither here nor there. Her article she takes, and she actually wins. And it's weird because there's no big ceremony. It's in dialogue. Well, congratulations, Terry, heard you won. The teacher. And he says, I owe you an apology. I misjudged you. And she goes, no, I was pretty shallow back then. And so, again, everybody's learning their lessons. There's a reason that we're telling this story. And a lot of films miss that mark. When you're telling a story, there has to be a change in somebody. Somebody has to change so that we can know that the story and the journey was worthwhile. That's what makes good drama and good cinema. So Terry, it cuts to the summer. Terry's getting off work at her internship at the newspaper, and Buddy arrives to pick her up, and instead Rick shows up. And what's really sweet about this scene is they just talk, and they just confess that they actually like each other. There's no big kiss. It's weird. They just drive off into the sunset. Buddy gets on the back of a Harley with some woman. That's very strange. It comes out of nowhere. I wish that he'd been picked up by Sandy the Fish Girl, but they're trying to say that Buddy, how do you describe it without being vulgar? Buddy's gotten a girl, so now he can get more girls, if that makes sense. If you're a guy, you know what I'm saying. Women can smell desperation and failure, but they can also see if you're confident. And Buddy is finally confident. But you don't get, there's no big, like even at the end of Can't Buy Me Love, she gets on the back of his lawnmower and they kiss in the sunset. This one, there's no kiss at the end. They just get in the car and drive off. It's very, I don't know, dare I say it, adult and not high school at all. Thinking that we should make out because we decide we like each other. It just ends with a great Phil Spector Wall of Sound song. I don't remember what it's called, but it just one of the guys is a really well done movie. It's got a lot of quotable lines. I mean, for an 80s movie, it's got to have quotable lines for me. It has a lot of quotable lines. It has a lot of really fun moments. Rick shows up in an episode of Next Generation. I've seen him lately. If you look on YouTube, there's a 30th anniversary screening they did last year here in LA. Man, if I'd have known, I would have gone. I would have gone. Oh my God. Not only to see it on the big screen, but to see all the people that were in it. I mean, they all look old now, but that's okay. We're all getting older. You know, they weren't on their phones, so you can tell what generation they're from, if that makes sense. And even Billy Jacoby was there as a surprise guest. I just looked up on eBay, and for old time's sake, I bought a beta copy of Just One of the Guys for $2. So I'm going to put that proudly in the Cafe 80s. It's such a fun movie. You should check it out. If you got kids, it does have the brief nudity at the end. There's some implied male nudity when Terry's a really funny sequence where Terry is trying to figure out how to get dressed for gym without getting beat up. One of my favorite stupid moments, she walks in the gym and this guy just walks by and goes, "Watch out," and throws a jock strap at her face. I just wonder, like, how'd they pick that guy? Like, they're looking through the extras going, "Hey, we're going to give you a scene." "Oh, awesome. Yeah, you're just going to throw this jockstrap at the camera and go, 'Watch out. Hey.'" It's really funny. It has, again, a lot of quotable lines, a lot of fun scenes. It's one of the better 80s movies. And it's an anomaly because it's very popular. Like, they just had a screening that sold out. It doesn't have any big stars in it. You can't look at it and go, well, it's popular because of X. It's popular because the performances are good and the story is well done. Which is saying something for what should be a throwaway movie. Because there were a lot of throwaway movies in the 80s. As soon as Porky's hit, there was a throwaway teen sex comedy every other week. And they didn't last. You can't find them in your local Target. They're not around, but Just One of the Guys has defied the odds and has stuck around. So, you know, God bless him. It's a really well done movie. And I want to thank Michael Bondi for pledging on Patreon to support this episode. We're going to run down all of the Patreon pledgers. Q11 TV, thank you. Kristen Boaz, Patrick Wisniewski, Matthew, David Marklin, Colleen, and Russlin. Sean Marshall, Tim Wilson, Jeremy from Vegas, Vanessa Roman, David Carrero, Mike Rumble, Michael Bondi, Hendel Thistletop. These are the people that make this show possible, folks. There's a lot of expenditures involved in this, and they're the ones that are pledging $5 or $10 or $35 for an episode and really helping me put this thing together. I couldn't do it without you. People show up, they help, they offer things. I mean, my friend Alan just showed up and gave me a box of envelopes for my eBay stuff. So I couldn't be more humble and thankful for all the help for everybody that everybody provides for this show. Great movie ideas. You can't go wrong. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see what's coming up here. This is fun. My friend Danny Roque is putting on Showmania Palooza at the Morgan Wixon Theater, Monday, August 22nd. That's this Monday in Santa Monica. So check out brownpapertickets.com or 800-838 3006. Danny Roque is a really funny guy. If you've been to Not Scary Farm the last 10 years, you've probably seen Danny in The Hanging as the hangman, the assistant guy. He's really funny, very talented. I worked with Danny over at Disneyland for a short time, so he's got a great show coming up. Check out brownpapertickets.com for the Danny Roque Show Mania Palooza. Let's also thank Q11 TV on YouTube, maker of fine comedy videos. Be sure to check out their channel, Q11 TV. Robbie's also the guy helping me put together the Don Berg cartoon. It's in the hands of the animator as we speak. I cannot wait to see how it turns out, man. This is how people who work on The Simpsons must feel, where you write it, you tell the animators what you want, and then you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and then you get a cartoon. So I can't wait to see what the Don Berg cartoon looks like. So that's going to be very cool. August 25th, I'll be hosting the Knott's Scary Farm annual pass holder preview at Knott's Berry Farm. Go to knotts.com to print out your voucher if you want to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hosting it with a lot of surprises. Check that out. What else? I think that's about it, right? Because I'm losing my voice. I've been pushing it hard today. So, hey, thanks again, Michael Bondi, for picking great movies. Just One of the Guys is a personal favorite of mine. I loved watching it again. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention something that's really funny. Check out the way the movie is made. Like, movies that were made in the 80s versus, I mean, obviously the editing is all over the place. But Just One of the Guys, the camera just stops. And we get long 2 and 3 shots where just the scene is allowed to percolate on its own. But check out, and I never noticed this before, they do this thing where, like, the screen folds in on itself, flips around to show you the next scene. It's just a transition shot, but they added a noise to it. It goes like it's ratcheting around, and I don't know why that's there. Is that there to remind me I'm watching a movie? It just goes. Just check. I mean, you have to watch it to see what I'm talking about, and it does. It happens more than once. Because it happened, I was like, oh, I got to remember that. And then it happened again. I was like, oh, well, there it is again. When the scene shifts, it goes, That's really funny. So I don't know why I find that interesting. I just do. Like, somebody had a meeting, like, we're going to put a little ratchet sound. What? Oh, let me show you. Oh, I love it. Let's do it for all the transitions. You got it. You got it. All right. So thanks, everybody. I'm Jeff Tucker. I am the voice, and the show you're listening to is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
Yeah, I'll get it. Hello? Hey, yo, scumbag. Hey, suck your own. Eat me. Hey, same to you, buttface. Mom says hi. This morning I knew her. I talked to her. She screamed at me. Everything was great. Now she's wearing my clothes. Hey, who do you think you are, Tootsie?
No.
Okay, Yentl. What do you want to be, a rabbi?
Just tell me what's wrong.
Really? Okay. Well, look how you're standing. I mean, drop your hands. Okay, now, stick your hip in. All right, now move your feet apart. Okay. Guys take up space. All right, now you gotta look tougher. Very crucial. Something every guy does. Let me see you scratch your balls.